Hi everybody and welcome to episode 3 of Project, what we're going to call it, Project Z, because although Project Z actually fits better, people are going mad, so let's call it Project Z. If you haven't seen the first 2 episodes, we started off with this bike all up and together, you know, with all its fairings on, and by the time we're done with it, it won't be in that condition. Well, it will be eventually, it's going to go back that way. We are restoring this DRZ400SM, DRZ400SM. A lot's actually happened since the last episode was filmed. I'll get into that while I'm working on it today. It's been some fantastic stuff, but it basically took up 5 days that I just didn't know was going to happen. But it wasn't a problem because in the meantime I have done a couple of little jobs to the bike. Basically I took off the fork guards, I also took off some miscellaneous plastics from around the bike and the chain guard. Had a little problem with that. Again, a stuck screw, so I've had to cut a head in that one. It's fine, all of these ones that have got cuts in them, I'll just be replacing anyway. I might look to see if there's a bolt kit for this entire bike, well, for the outer parts of it. I'll see. But yeah, we got all those bits off, I got those all washed up. In this episode, the subframe's going to come off. That's the number one goal of today. As I say, I'll talk about what's been going on the past few days, and I want to make today a light episode for me, also because I need to get this out relatively soon. But yeah, subframe coming off, possibly airbox, basically getting down to this point, is my goal for today. Something I did do during those 5 days, though, is I came in here every now and then and squirted a bit of WD-40 on the fasteners that I've got to get off next, just because they are particularly on the inside of the frame. You know, they get a lot of mud and corrosion and stuff, and I wanted to make sure that they didn't have any problems, so spraying with WD-40 gets it down there. It should help loosen them up and get them out. So I've had a quick look at it, and from what I can see, if I detach the wiring off of the subframe here, I've got pictures so I know what goes where, it should just be a case of a couple of bolts underneath the airbox, the bolts here, the bolts down there, and the subframe should then lift off. What came up is, as you may know, me and Reno live in a shared house, and we're quite limited on space, but there's been a lot of other people's stuff around that could have been moved, and basically the opportunity came to rearrange some rooms around the house, which gave me the opportunity to get an office, because up until now I have been running my channel for the past, 10 years, basically from the bottom of my bed in a metre by metre square, metre and a half by metre and a half square, for the past 10 years. It means that when Reno's trying to sleep, I have to be very quiet because I'm up editing. You know, she goes to sleep around 10, 11, depending on what her work time start is. I go to sleep much later. I normally wake up at the same time as Reno, just because I don't ever really sleep that much. It's obviously just a lot easier not having to try and work in the same room you sleep in. And also from a perspective of working from home. And I'm sure some of you that are watching this have just recently had to sort of acclimatise to working from home. It's not everything that people think it is. It is a lot of fun. It is fantastic. It's really good to work from home. I'd love to be able to do it for the rest of my life. However, there is a lot of downsides that come with that, and distractions and people in the house and stuff like that. There's a big difference. I mean, if you live on your own or something, or with one person who's very understanding, you're not going to have that problem. But in a shared house environment where you can't expect people to stop their lives entirely just because you're doing something, it can be very stressful. And also very counterproductive. You know, I'm a very strong believer in the thing to do with distractions, which is they say that a 5-second distraction increases mistakes and stuff and hinders productivity hugely. It's not the 5 seconds, it's hours of, well, it could be up to like 20 minutes, an hour of difference. And that makes perfect sense, because I mean, I get into like a work mode where I'm really focused on what I'm doing, and I'm kind of, it's almost like a cloud of brain just functioning well, and you're getting on and doing your job and everything's going great. And if someone comes up to you and just says something really simple, asks you a question that didn't need to be asked then, it can really throw you. But anyway, I digress. I now have an office. Here goes a little quick look. Okay, well, welcome to the new Spice 110 HQ. As I say, it's not a lot, it's just a little room. See, one wall is there. Yes, it needs repainting. We can't get paint at the moment. I'm actually in the corner, you know, like where the door is. Yeah, I've got the PC set up here in this corner. So I'm about to edit the video you're about to watch. Little charging table. I cannot say strongly enough how much of a good idea this is, because it means your cameras are always on charge and it's where you keep them. Just a random collection of the inert ordnance and stuff. A board. You can tell Reno's been in here. Got all my old helmets up on the wall, and Betty's old face looking over me. It's got a little window, which is already frosted, which is perfect. It means you don't have to worry about, you know, people working out where you live and stuff like that. And here I've got all my tripods and my lighting rigs and all that sort of stuff all set up. A lemon, obviously. And then in this, which is a very old-fashioned piece of furniture, the bureau. These things are actually awesome because it means you can put all your camera equipment in there. And, you know, you can just put it there and close it and there's no dust on it when you close it up at night. And also, it means I end up with one of them desk setups where I've got loads of space around me if I need to work. I think I've set this out pretty cleverly. Yeah, they cracked off fine. That WD-40 obviously got in there, or it wasn't a problem anyway. Yeah, obviously not working and sleeping in the same room is a huge advantage. So this really is like life-changing for me. It's like a dream come true, and it also means that Reno gets more space now because we've got more space in our normal room. So it's yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic positive, and the opportunity arose and I had to jump on it, which is why, as I say, I stopped everything for 5 days and got that done. I wasn't expecting it to take 5 days, I was expecting it to take 2. The reason it took so long is basically I had to rejig a lot of stuff in the house, which included having to take apart flat pack furniture and put it all back together again to get it in and out of rooms. I think we only threw away basically 1 wheelie bin's worth of stuff, but because of the organisation of it now, it seems like the entire house is much better off, and I've got more space, so it's a win-win all round. A very good positive in the middle of this sort of annoying crisis that we're in. The other benefit is the possibility, and I want to try and do this, we've been experimenting with software and cameras and stuff, of doing some patron-exclusive live streams. Of course, huge shout out to my patrons, thank you so much for supporting this channel. Their names are going to go up at the end. You know how much you mean to me, thank you. But yeah, I thought about doing some patron-exclusive live streams. You might say, why patron exclusive? Basically because it's a smaller group of people. They tend to be more nice and reasonable, should we say? I think it would be more interesting to have a small group. If it's completely open, yeah, I'll do that maybe occasionally, but if it's a regular thing, it'd be nicer to actually, like, you know, remember people that are there and maybe continue discussions and stuff like that. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I don't know how much I can do it. I don't want to make too many promises about it because I've got to sort of work out the logistics of it all. But it's something I would like to do, and it's only possible now that I have an office. Right, come on. Right, that's them loosened off. Glad I sprayed those up because they're a little bit tight. Right, this is a Chutoro automatic manual chain oiler. I have a video on one. I think I have 2 videos on these. These basically are a little pot that you fill up with oil. It's got a little plunger and a weight in there, and you set the flow rate here, and when the bike goes along over bumps, every now and then that little thing will jump up. A little tiny amount of oil will be allowed to pass through the tube that goes down here and drips onto your chain. There's various different ways of doing it. I've had this on here for a long time, and I've really liked it because you just can forget about looking, well, not forget about looking after the chain, but forget about needing to make sure it's lubed, because it's always kept lubed. However, it does get quite dirty because when you go from normal roads onto really bumpy roads, obviously it jumps around a lot more, and that means that you can dump out the entire thing of oil while you're like green laning or something, which is why I remember to turn it off before I go off-road. I really like the thing, but seeing the amount of dirt and grease that it leaves behind because it's always got oil here, and I know I didn't clean this bike that much, you know. I'm not blaming this entirely on this, but I think I'm going to take it off and see how it goes using some drier lubes, because I've been doing that on other bikes and I actually quite like it opposed to this really wet stuff. You know, I could even just use the exact same oil that's in here, which is basically a light oil, although this is very sticky because it's got to stick to the chains, so it's anti-fling. So a light oil, you know this engine oil or toothbrush, it can be a perfectly good thing for a chain. But as I say, for now, I think it's going to come off because I don't think I'm going to put the pillion pegs back on, and that's where it mounts to. I could find somewhere else to mount it, but the pillion pegs are going to come off. I think I'll make a plate for the exhaust size. I've got a plate in here. I've got a TIG welder. I can knock up anything I need. This part of the video, at least, is being filmed on the 27th of April. Just to give you an idea as how far there is between things being filmed and you actually seeing them on YouTube, because I've had a lot of suggestions in the comments of things I should do or should have done, and obviously, as always, as I mentioned, it's a bit tricky to do that because it's already, like, episode 2 is already filmed and in the bag before the first one even went to Patreon. And I do actually cover a lot of the things that people have sort of suggested and mentioned in that video, but it was edited out for time because, you know, you just can't say everything because that makes the video too damn long. Like, I get a feeling this one's going to be long because I'm chatting a lot on it. Oh, and pillion peg. I think there's one or two suggestions of not spraying the frame but powder coating it. Indeed, that is what I would like the most. I would love to get this powder coated. However, I am a little bit concerned about the thickness, because obviously powder coat adds a reasonable thickness onto your metal, and I'm concerned if there's close fitting surfaces with a powder coat, we're going to have like rubbing issues. And if it does rub off, which is, you know, not the end of the world, it does mean we're back to having exposed metal again, and I don't want that. So paint might be the better option. Whether we need to take the engine out or not is another thing that's been brought up. Yes, as I said, I don't know if it was in the second or the first, and I knew this would come up. Yes, doing the engine drop, take the frame apart completely and do it properly is the best thing to do, but not always an option. Oh, I think we're almost there. Are we still connected? No, we're not. We're free. On subframe. That weighs absolutely nothing. I mean, well, £3? Is that a bit of a kilo and a half, maybe? Maybe it's 2 kilos. Maybe it's like £4. I don't know. Right, now I need to work out what came from where. That one goes in that side of the frame down here. I thought that was rust, but it's not. It's just grease. I'm glad about that, but it's on my finger now. Probably should have used gloves. Look at the grime on that. That's going to be so satisfying to clean up. I'm just going to spray it with WD-40 and wipe it down. Maybe use a little bit of wire wool or a scouring pad or something just to rebuff the aluminium. So now in theory, all this lot, the electrics should just, yeah, as I thought, just lift up out of the way. The CDI comes off, and then the airbox should only be held on by the boot that's holding it onto the carb. And that's just held on by what's like a large Jubilee clip band. So you just unscrew the screw, which should loosen it off. Like so, and in theory... Oh no, the overflow tank's also connected to it. Breather off the top. You now are going to come out. Oh, we got another. No, there we go. Oh, there's a previous. Forgot about this. There's a bolt shoved in the end of this hose, and there's some other bits of the carb tubes that were disconnected and all blocked. I can't remember exactly what you call that mod on the DRZ, but basically, as I understand it, it removes a throttle restrictor, which stops you getting full throttling, like first, second, or third, or something, and third, something like that. If you want to clarify in the comments if you know exactly why you do this mod, go for it, because it'd be nice to see it written out properly, and then I can remember that, rather than trying to explain it poorly to you. So yeah, airbox off. I'm going to have to give that a good clean up. No, I've just put a rubber glove over the back of the carb intake, just to make sure nothing falls in there. I've got to have a sit or a stand or something. That's so weird. You could try all sorts of positions. Whoa. I call this one the pooper. There we go, to reposition it. The balance of the bike's kind of changed. I've just been spending a few minutes actually looking at everything and how it's laid out, so I can kind of familiarise myself with it. Because obviously I know this bike very well, but I've not seen under its skin this deeply. Well, I've never had the subframe off. Let's just have a look on the inside. Yeah, there is some rust in here. There's it's slightly more than surface. It's not, well, it is still surface rust, but it's at a point that I'd want to be looking at that. That side's covered in grease because of the chain, so I have no fear about that being rusty. There is a little bit of rust on the underside of the frame here above the engine. Again, not too bad. Okay, I think we are going to be taking the electrics off, or at least getting them peeled over the front. I think the cooling system's going to come off, and I think the engine will be dropped, because as much as I don't want to do that because it looks so damn complicated, I'll be honest, okay, I've been doing my own mechanics on bikes 10 years. I've never stripped a bike fully. I've gone a long way back and then forwards, and I've rebuilt bikes after they've been written off and stuff like that. But turning a bike into a pile of parts when it's kind of scary, because you're like, I hope I can get back together again. And I'm like, of course I can. But it's always going to be a slightly apprehensive thing until you've done it a couple of times. That would be my guess anyway. But I'm not too worried about it. Years ago, I wouldn't have even considered doing this. Now I'm like, okay. I don't think anything's going to be too difficult. I mean, it is a different matter, of course, because I do, thankfully, very luckily, have 2 bikes. So I don't have an option, don't have a problem with needing to get this back together in any quick fashion. And now we're on lockdown, well, it's just been increased even more. Okay, so I've just disconnected all the tie wraps that were actually holding the cables onto the frame, but put them in the same sort of place. Because something I'll be doing after I do the video today is I'll be taking a load of pictures with the way that it is in place. I'll take a little video and I'll just talk to myself and sort of show what tube went wearing. So in case I do have a problem, I can go back and look through the video and be like, oh, I see where it came from. Most of them, they're bent, you know, in ways that it's pretty obvious where they're going to go, and you know where they need to go, so you know where it's going to go path, but it's getting everything in the right pathways. There is a temptation to say, do I want to do the swing arm bushes or bearings, whatever they use? But there is no play in them whatsoever, and there's absolutely no reason to go in there and do that right now. You know, the headstock bearings, everything feels completely fine. And normally when you strip something down like this, I'd be like, oh, you're going to have it apart that much anyway, you replace them. I'm not really too worried about it, because this actually hasn't been that much work so far. As one or two of you said, when they have a DRZ, they do this like every year. It's just a basic strip the bike down, clean it, and put it back together thing. A bit like I used to do with my radio control car, but I guess these are so simple that you could do that. You definitely wouldn't want to do that with a sports bike. I think that'll be it for this episode, but first, let's just clean this thing up, because it's not going to take more than 2 minutes. Just going to literally clean it. I'm not going to like finish polishing it or anything like that. Let's just get the dirt off of it. Okay, before we start with the frame, look what I found while I was having a clear out. I had to blow it up. It's the giant sausage from the fest. You've seen you got like Lammy, Manimal, Phil 480, there's Purple Monkey, the Chitty Man, V-Twin Vlogster. Anyway, enough of playing with a giant sausage. Let's sort this out. I apologise for the farting sound in the background. My next door neighbour is a big fan of curry. Well, there you go. It will need a proper clean. As I say, that's just getting the main grime off of it. Before it all goes back on, obviously I'll be cleaning up the fasteners and getting down in all the threads and everything and making sure that it's all perfect. And I'll also be giving it a brush up with some wire wool, as I say, or a scouring pad. Whatever tries to return this dull finish the closest to what it's supposed to be, I'll try. I have done a little bit of experimenting with that and aluminium in the past with the metalwork, so actually I might be alright on that one, but it is very uniform. So I'm not quite sure how they did it. Oh look, you always miss a bit. So yeah, I mean there isn't really a lot more to it. As you can see, you've got obviously just the chain and sprockets on the back and the brake set up, and that's just to there. The electric's always going to lift out the way, and that just runs up the side here, and then that just goes, you know, and that just turns into this. So the whole wiring loom is this little bag, a few wires behind here, the connection between here and that little group there, and that's it, and it all just sits on the top and there. It's a fantastic design. Radiators, a couple of bolts. We've got some hosing, obviously we'll have to drain the fluid out of it, the coolant. And then it's not going to be a huge amount to actually get the engine out. Okay, so what's going to be episode 4? Well, in the meantime, I am going to go through and, as I say, just get familiarised with what tubes are going where and label them up and then take some pictures or videos so I know where everything went, just as a reference. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but it's just a way of covering my butt and I won't have to look like too much of a fool asking people, where the hell does this bit go? It's all fairly straightforward. But yeah, in episode 4, I imagine I'll be getting the wiring loom out and probably exhaust cooling system off and maybe engine out. I don't know yet. It depends how much work's involved there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So if you want to join me on that one, hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. I'm on my way to 100,000 subscribers and I'm getting there slowly. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit that like button. I massively appreciate it. And of course, a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters and the people that support me through PayPal independently. I really couldn't do this without you, so thank you very much. Until the next episode, I'll catch you next time. Bye! Oh, I got to clean that up as well, I forgot. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to see future videos. This channel is made possible by the support of the audience. Please consider joining my Patreon to get early access to videos, questions answered in the monthly Q&A, your name on screen, and some exclusive content, all for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the links in the description to my merch and other ways to directly support the channel. Thanks for watching.